All right, so let's continue with this text here. Right. They were saying a lot of stuff here, and right, we're talking about methodology, I think. Cascade says, I guess you could say he was thinking out of the box. Indeed, definitely. Or inside the box. Alright. Thrun and Pruitt and Heyer analyzed ergonomic risks and examined safety implications of human-machine interactions. So also conceptual contributions from engineering and computer sciences found their way into the debate on automation and human work. Right, but that's an older idea, right? Yeah. From 2004, people have to look at the dangers of different technologies before that. How would you generalize this? It sounds weird. Right. At the same time, changes in the manifold dimension of work increasingly attracted the attention of social scientists. Fancy language, that, right? Actually, my academics writing teacher would probably be pissed off at this and not be okay with this language. Who uses this? Manifold dimensions. It kind of feels like they're using fancy language just to be extra difficult. Right. And when you write, what's your point when you're writing academic language? You're trying to explain some difficult concepts. Using fanciful language is not really... I mean, you have to use a lot of fancy language in academics, but the goal is not to. Right? You don't want to make it more difficult to read your text, you want to make it as easy as possible, because the concepts that you're trying to explain might be difficult, right? And you want to reduce the amount of possible misunderstandings. That's why sometimes you have to use difficult and fancy language. Right. Changes in... They used something else before, work. They used another word that they could have just used again, which they should have used again, in my opinion, yeah. Right, in manufacturing, scientific attention was mainly focused on new qualification and skills requirements, the increase of standardization processes and polarization processes. Oh yeah. From social scientists, they were interested in that. But then some other people were looking at safety. Definitely, that makes sense. Only very few studies dealt with the introduction of machines to improve the working conditions by giving the workers more qualified tasks such as programming, maintenance, and control. Is that necessarily an improvement to the working conditions? I suppose, yeah, in a lot of places there is, right? Working in a mine or sitting in front of a computer, what is more healthy, right? Sitting on your ass in front of a computer all day is maybe not the healthiest thing to do, but compared to just hacking away at a mine, that's way more dangerous. Alright. There is not one single trend in technical development, but a number of them, as pointed out by Krings, Sandberg and Van den Besselaar, Clements and Jarvinen. That's gotta be Finnish. Yeah. So it seems difficult to define the relationship between technologies and managerial strategies and its impact on working environments. I feel that that's a mistake that has been done a lot in this text. It's trying to do too many things. It's talking about general managerial strategies based on technological advancements. That's just such a broad question that it's unanswerable because of how big the question is. Right, empirical studies and data material on these topics are still scarce. Yeah, of course, because people don't want to do that study, because what would it look like? Right? What would a study like that look like? Study. Relationship between technology and managerial strategies. Can you imagine a study like that? What would you look at? Computers? Right? People just sitting in front of the computers? Yeah, I have no idea what that would look like. Right. Without doubt, the study of Frey and Osborne was an important starting point to consider the question of technological unemployment again, which also had an impact on sociological research, according to Butera. Did someone proofread this? It's all over the place. I don't know what this paragraph is about, right? There's not a single... Alright, this is just like a miscellaneous paragraph, maybe? Right, a miscellaneous where they say that a lot of people do a lot of different things. And that's what the paragraph is saying? Maybe. As a result of 50 years of discussions about changing phenomenon, I define automation as a stage in the process towards integrated systems of processes, technology, organization, roles and values, where technology performs a large variety of existing and new tasks, and where interaction is designed among human beings and technical systems with the goal to get optimal products and services. Okay. From that perspective, it becomes clear that automation is not a mere technological issue, problem or trend that deserves to be applied to all branches of the economy to aim at higher productivity, higher profits, and a disciplined workforce. Wait. Why would automation be an issue or problem? Well, I suppose issue like an area to discuss. I don't know. On the contrary, it is a socio-technical field in which humans and machines interact in social and societal constellations framed by technology. Ooh, that's actually an interesting point. Looking at society as being framed by technology. Not framed like in, aha, I hid the murder weapon in your home, but framed like a frame of a painting. That our constellations, they're all built around tools and buildings and whatnot. The actual contents of society is the interactions between people, right? And we use a lot of tools to interact with each other. Whatever you do when you work or interact with people, you use technology, right? The technology is part of it, always. Except for... man, is there such a thing as just pure social interaction? No, it's kind of framed. It's framed around technology as well, right? Kaz Kid says, what about a traditional artist? How do you mean tradition? Like painter? They didn't use technology. Oh, we're going back? Well, this is a very broad definition of technology, right? That is what they're doing. At all, and sold their art without it. So a paintbrush would be considered technology. Making paint would be considered technology. I think, yeah. That is my understanding. I mean, that is my interpretation. It doesn't have to be that way. Yeah, tools. Exactly, tools. That's the basics of technology, right? We all use tools. But we're talking about framing social interactions, right? I was thinking that we have pure social interactions, like we can just sit around and talk we can go out and have a picnic or whatever and just eat apples, right? We don't have to have technologies around that. But we will still have a basket to carry the apples, and so that's kind of the framing, right? It's framed around, we use all this technology or tools to achieve certain goals. And that's like, and that's what they're arguing here, right? That you can frame society, you can look at society as being framed by technology. What about a performer? Oh. I mean, I can be nitpicking and be a dumbass and say, well, they use shoes, don't they? But that... shoes and clothes, right? But that's not part of the performance by itself. And the same way, right? The social interaction, it's not based on eating the apple or drinking the coffee, right? That's not the point of the interaction. Social and artistic interactions are not... they're not built upon technology, but they are framed by. Cascade says, sorry, I'm nitpicking the main argument. No, it's great. I like nitpicking. It's right. If you look at the fringes and you build an idea around, just like a performer, it's not about the shoes or the clothes. Well, it depends, right? If it's fashion, it's about the clothes. But it might not be about the clothes. But the clothes are always there. So society is framed by. Just like a painting, the content of a painting, there is always something outside the context of a painting, right? It's always something there. Just like everything in society, there is always technology there. Kaz Kid says, I'm curious though. Now I really want to find a job that isn't framed by technology. I don't think you can. Right? That's the whole point of this perspective, right? That there is technology everywhere. I suppose if we're talking about jobs, right, I can think of a job that, like, sex work doesn't take any clothes. But no, it does. It still does. But you need to be dressed before, not after. And usually it takes place in a bed, I would imagine. Could take a house as well, or a room. Right, and that's not the point. It's not that it has to be framed by. It's just that's the perspective they're taking, that it is, in fact, framed by technology. So, technology, that's actually a good point. In social studies, in sociology and whatever, technological aspects are interesting because context is always interesting. Right. New forms of human-machine interactions have been analyzed in the last decades based on different approaches such as actor-network theory, right? Or the role of agency of technologies in different socio-technical environments. Wait. Agency of technologies? Is that really a thing? A machine does not have agency. Well, I suppose if you broaden the definition of agency, you can say that the machine that the Roomba or whatever that hoovers the floor, it's on a timer. It's hands off, right? I don't hoover or mow the lawn. I have a machine that moves around and does it by itself. And that's kind of agency, but that's... I think that's kind of a dumb... Not dumb, but I dislike that perspective. Because agency kind of implies intent, right? That the machine is making decisions and whatnot, and it's not really. The machine is only following its programming. It was the programmer who made the decisions, not the machine. Like self-driving cars, they make... Well, I guess the self-driving car makes decisions, right? It has choices and it picks one of the two, but it has been programmed to make those choices. And that actually becomes an interesting idea about what is agency. What is agency? Oh, damn it. Agency is philosophy, yeah. Agency is the capacity of an actor to act in a given environment. It is independent of the moral dimension, which is called moral agency. So what is an actor? Wait, are you kidding me? Do we need free will? Oh. Free will is not a thing. Not philosophically speaking. Right, in sociology, an agent is an individual engaging with the social structure. Here we go, we're talking sociology. Oh, right. The machine has a capacity to act in the environment. It can cut the grass. It doesn't have to be a decision-making thing. It's just, it engages with the social structure. And we could consider just framing the social interaction as being interacting with the social structure, right? You take a holistic approach, there is no border, right? It's all intertwined. Right. However, these approaches have been mainly developed in the sociology of technology and less in the sociology of work. Yeah, that makes sense. Thus, there has been a need not only to bridge the gap between both perspectives in recent years, but also a need for interdisciplinary research regarding the future models of work. Nevertheless, the multiple effects of new emerging technologies on employment are rather new. Do you see it? Do you see what's going on here? Why I'm facepalming? The multiple effects of new are new. The new stuff is new. This text does this a lot, right? This sentence is not saying anything. New effects are new. This is just making me read stuff that doesn't say anything. It's a waste of space and waste of time. It's just words. You've just put a lot of words here for the sake of having words. It frustrates me. Right, new skills and qualifications needs... New skill and qualification needs emerge. Is that English? I don't know. But are not yet available. Wait. New skills and qualification needs emerge, but are not yet available. The volume of employment is threatened by unpredictable changes and capacity building by short-term management policies. Oh wow, this was a sentence. Right, new stuff needs new stuff. All right. So new technology is new, and that requires new skills to emerge that are not yet available because the old stuff is not new yet. The volume of employment is threatened by unpredictable changes and capacity. Right. People cannot predict what new stuff is gonna happen. Right. This was the first content, right? That new things are unpredictable. Which isn't really a big sweeping statement here. Unpredictable changes and capacity in building short-term management policies. Alright, so this whole thing is pretty much saying that new technology changes work, old management's policies don't work because they are not new. Wow. Following this debate, the impact of automation seems to be extremely relevant with regard to future models of work. Extremely relevant, yeah. I agree with that. That is actually a good point though, right? Will the future only be programmers and engineers? Is that the only actual jobs that will exist? Programming and engineering hardware, programming the hardware to do stuff. That gonna be the only jobs? Well, service jobs, of course, can be a thing as well. Oh, right. Designers as well. Right, creativity. Right, we have someone who engineers the machine to do a task. We have someone to program the machine to do the task. But then, of course, we must have a designer. Someone to say, well, this task has to be done. Someone has to say that as well. And then I think like art and hobbies and stuff like that, that doesn't really need to be jobs. Right? Art does not have to be a job in the future. It can just be a hobby, which is great. Although automation processes are advancing, there is little conceptual knowledge about the impact of these processes on specific working environments, specific institutional work settings, or labor policies. That's interesting though. Predicting the future becomes more and more difficult every year. Right? Because technological advancement have been for a long time now following an exponential curve, right? Exponential stuff. I don't know if, like, let's say in 20 years, will all cars be self-driving? What will a computer game look like in 20 years? Will we sit in front of a screen? Will we play on holograms? Will we have virtual reality that we all play in? Where we just have a pair of gloves? Maybe not even gloves. To interact with. Will we have brain chip interfaces so we can interface directly through our brain and use our thought processes to control our brain? Actually, it's interesting because technologically I cannot predict these things, but sociology I can. Because social changes, political changes does not happen in that speed. The bottleneck is not technology. The bottleneck is a social one. Yeah. The work settings, the labor policies, the social environments. Right. Let's take, for example, something that has bothered me. I've thought about it. That there are a lot of people dependent on water from glaciers. And glaciers are drying out. Is that what it's called? They are receding, right? There is less and less water from the glaciers. Maybe some glaciers will disappear soon enough. What happens with all those people dependent on that water? So something that I've thought that we are capable of as a human species, if we decided to, we could make sure that there is water available pretty much everywhere. Right? There is not a lack of water on this planet. We could take all the water from the oceans and desalt them and build big fucking pipelines, right? We could desalt them and build big fucking pipelines that just runs in a grid over the entire planet to make sure there is water all over the place. We are capable of doing that. We won't, though. We won't. The reason why we won't is not a technological reason. It's a policy reason. It's about organization of society. And that shit is difficult. It is difficult indeed. Right. Thus it seems that there is still a lack of ideas for the options and chances that these models should provide for sustainable future models of work based on technological progress. And I think that is kind of the same thing that this text is saying. Now, it seems there's a lack of idea. Well, not ideas. The ideas are like, I just put an idea out there. The ideas are here. The deciding to implement ideas. I think plenty of ideas are there, and there's probably a lot of them lacking as well, but even if the ideas were generated, that does not necessarily lead to implementation. Yeah, it's structures of implementation for ideas. That is what is lacking at all, I think. Alright, next part. Do we need new conceptual approaches of technological progress and work? Some reflections. I think so, yeah. I'm a big fan of universal basic income. I really want to see that.